Okay, so we now know how to use the point cloud generator. So let's go ahead and set it up specifically for the purpose of getting as high quality a point cloud as possible for this specific shot. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete this one out and recreate it. I could have just cleared it out, but I just personally prefer to start with a fresh node. There we go. We'll rehook up the camera. We'll go ahead and rehook up to the source right over there. And we can also rehook up to the mask over here. And I'm actually debating whether I'm going to use the mask or not, and I'll explain why in just a bit. So for right now, though, I'll set it up, and I'll decide in a moment. But I'm going to go ahead and turn on mask inverted alpha so that it does use the inside of that mask. And I don't know quite how I want to set this up. I could set it up for every keyframe. That would definitely mean it's forced to examine every frame. At the same time, his face does move slow, so perhaps I could do once every 2 keyframes to speed things up. Or let's actually take a look at what happens when I use analyze sequence. Perhaps it can determine, it's where it needs the data and where it doesn't. There's times when this works great. It clearly picks out very important keys and you can tell. Other times it just seems like it grabs just about every key, and other times it clearly misses very important ones. I'm just going to give it a try and see what we get out of it. So I'll click that, and it'll take just a moment as it has to go through every frame. See, it's just going to be about a minute, but I'll pause while that goes ahead and does its thing. Okay, we can see it's actually put down quite a few keyframes. So it looks like it's fairly sparse here in the beginning. Let's actually look at the 2D view so we can see what it's actually in reference to. So it's fairly sparse here at the beginning. That's because his head isn't moving very much. Picks up a bit more here. It's kind of almost every other frame. Then here where he has a lot more of a movement, a lot faster, you can see keyframes are denser. And it kind of continues like that. We have sparser areas and we have denser areas. So we could go ahead and use this. It'll probably give us a fairly good result. Again, it's kind of only sparse in these areas where we don't see his face very much. However, I'm actually okay on time. I don't feel like I need to be rushed. So rather than going ahead and actually using this, I'll go ahead and delete all. And I'm just going to have it every frame. I'll hit add all. And you can see every frame is now keyed. This will create way too many unnecessary tracks, but that's okay. I'll be able to use some settings here, the angle, threshold, and density, to get rid of what I don't need. So for point separation, I'm going to put it at 1. And that should give me about 1 point at every pixel. You can actually drop this below 1. It's going to look like it says 0, but I can do something like 0.05. However, it is going to now do sub-pixel, and it'll give you even denser keyframes. Not keyframes, excuse me, points. That becomes a little unnecessary. I'm going to stick to just 1, but I will increase my track threshold to get more accuracy to maybe about 0.95. Now, this is going to take quite a while. I'd say this is going to be about 20 to 30 minutes. However, just to kind of show you what happens when we don't use the mask, you by all means can keep on using the mask. I'm going to go ahead and just turn that off to none. So it'll be forced to actually calculate every pixel, and you'll see how it actually sees the wall versus his face here, especially because the camera is moving to match the face and not the wall. I'll go ahead now and hit track points. This may very well take almost an hour. I'm not entirely sure. It'll tell us maybe in just a moment here. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and pause while it does its thing. It says 22 minutes, 27. That's jumping all over the place. But either way, I'll pause and I'll see you guys in just a moment. Okay, so let's see what we have. I'm going to go ahead and jump into our 3D view. And you could see it's quite a mess. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off display rejected points here because all the red is rejected points. And you could see that we actually have quite a decently detailed point cloud in here. There's areas that are cut off like the nose and the chin got flattened out, and we'll explain in a little bit why. But we actually have a fairly complete point cloud. You could see it even got close to around the back of his head. And you might wonder, well, we didn't really put any tracking points there. Well, this no longer has anything to do with tracking points. It was now simply comparing the footage to the camera movement and trying to map out all the pixels in space. Now, all of the white you see here is the backdrop. Yes, the backdrop was stationary and it was the head that was moving, but again, Nuke doesn't know that. It thinks that the camera is what was moving and everything else was stationary. So for that reason, it's in kind of this just very strange pattern here because as the camera rotated, it grabbed bits of that background. So we'll go ahead and delete that stuff out though. So we can also begin to even kind of clean up a little bit here, like the angle threshold, but we'll talk a bit more about that in the next clip. I'm going to go ahead and leave this as is here because there's going to be a bit more to actually cleaning this up than just using these settings here. So we'll go ahead and do that next. See you in the next clip.